Welcome to my channel, Good Read Self-Growth. Today we are talking about the book, The Overthinking Cure by Nick Trenton. And I have to say, looking at the stack of notes, we are wading into some pretty murky waters today.
Yeah, this is a big one.
A really big one. We're talking about the thing that, keeps high performers up at night, the thing that turns a simple email draft into a 3-hour existential crisis.
Exactly. It's that universal friction of the modern mind. We're designed to think, but we weren't necessarily designed to think this much or in this specific looping way.
Right. And have you ever had that experience lying awake at night because someone sent you a neutral text, like, okay, and you can't get a reply and your mind just spins?
Or replaying a conversation from 3 years ago in the shower, thinking of the perfect comeback you should have said.
Oh, absolutely. The dreaded shower argument you already lost.
It's universal. And I think before we get into the how-to, we have to tackle the big misconception.
Which is?
That overthinking is a good thing.
Yes. Okay, I'm glad you brought this up. We wear it as a badge of honor, don't we? It's the classic job interview answer for what's your greatest weakness.
Oh, I just care too much. I'm a perfectionist. I overthink things.
Exactly. We treat it like it's just a sign of being thorough or, intelligent, like it's thinking, but better.
And that's what Trenton calls the safety shield paradox. It's the single biggest idea that keeps people trapped. We believe that worry is a form of work.
We think we're preparing.
We think if I churn on this problem long enough, if I simulate every possible disaster scenario in my head, I'm protecting myself.
It feels responsible.
It feels like you're in the control tower, directing air traffic, making sure none of the planes crash. But Nick Trenton's whole argument is that that's just an illusion. You're not in the control tower.
No, you're just running on a treadmill in the basement of the airport.
That's a great way to put it. And he makes this really sharp distinction right at the beginning between thinking and overthinking. It's crucial. Thinking, he says, is linear. It has a start point, a process, and a destination. You have a problem, you analyze the data, you make a choice, you act. It moves from A to B.
So thinking actually produces a result, an action, a decision.
Precisely. Overthinking, on the other hand, is circular. It's a loop. It's like, that broken film reel that just keeps stuttering over the same 3 seconds of a movie? That's overthinking.
You're not moving from A to B. You're moving from A to A to A again, but your blood pressure gets higher each time.
And you're getting more and more exhausted.
He uses that metaphor of the rocking chair, which I think is so visceral. You're moving, you're expending a ton of calories, you feel completely exhausted by the end of it.
And you haven't traveled a single inch.
Not one. And that exhaustion is key. I mean, we call overthinking a silent killer, which sounds a bit dramatic, but when you think about the metabolic costs, it's huge.
It's massive. Your brain, just at rest, consumes something like 20% of your body's total energy.
20%, just sitting there.
Yeah. So when you're in a high-anxiety overthinking loop, you are burning through glucose at a rate that actually mimics intense physical exertion.
Which explains why you can sit at the desk all day just worrying about a presentation and come home feeling like you've just run a marathon.
You've completely depleted your battery, but you haven't actually done anything. You've just moved a lot in a rocking chair.
So the mission for this deep dive, then, it isn't just to say stop worrying, because that's the most useless advice anyone can give.
It's like telling someone who's drowning to just stop drowning. It doesn't work.
Right. So our goal here is to really unpack the mechanics of this trap, the biology of it, and then hand over the specific toolkit that Trenton provides in the book. We're going to get into things like the 5-4-3-2-1 method, the 5-second rule.
And some pretty heavy-hitting CBT techniques later on. The goal is to move from what he calls mental paralysis to mental freedom.
And to do that, we have to start by looking at the engine of the problem itself, the anxiety loop.
The anxiety loop. This is the core mechanism.
Let's break this down, because I think a lot of really sophisticated people, our listeners, they often think they're analyzing a complex situation, when in reality, they're caught in a biological feedback loop. So how does this cycle actually begin?
Okay, so it always starts with phase 1, the trigger.
The trigger.
And this is so important. The trigger is neutral. It is just a piece of data. It could be a look from your boss across the meeting room.
Yeah.
A weird noise your car engine makes.
Or, as we said, that text message that just reads, "We need to talk."
Okay. We need to talk.
Yeah.
Is rarely neutral. I'll give you that. But you get the point. It's an external event.
It can be internal too, right? Like a sudden spike in your heart rate or a random memory popping up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But let's stick with the external one for now. So the trigger happens, then immediately you hit phase 2, the thought. This is the interpretation. The story you tell yourself about the neutral data.
My boss hates me, they're going to fire me, and my car is going to explode on the highway. I'm in so much trouble.
Exactly. And this is where the split happens. A, let's call it a healthy thinker, might say, I wonder what they want to talk about. I guess I'll find out at 2 p.m. Eero. But the overthinker.
The overthinker treats the thought as a fact.
They merge the thought with reality. And that's what leads directly to phase 3, rumination.
This is the deep dive into the abyss.
This is the spiral. You start forecasting. You aren't just thinking about the meeting at 2. You're thinking about losing your job, then losing your house, then your family leaving you, then you're living under a bridge. You are catastrophizing.
You're writing, directing, and starring in a horror movie where you are both the victim and the monster.
And the script is terrible. But here's where the biology really kicks in with a vengeance. Phase 4 is anxiety. Your body is listening to your mind's terrible script.
Right.
Your mind is saying, alert, alert, we are about to be homeless, so the amygdala, your brain's little threat detection center, it just slams the big red panic button.
And then what happens physically?
It dumps cortisol and adrenaline into your bloodstream. Your heart starts racing, your palms get sweaty, your digestion literally shuts down because your body thinks it needs to run from a tiger.
Okay, and this is the part of the loop that absolutely fascinates me. Phase 5, the feedback. Because now you feel physically awful. You actually feel fear in your body.
And your brain, specifically the prefrontal cortex, which is supposed to be the logical, rational part, it looks at the state of your body and says, whoa, my heart is pounding. I feel terrified. Therefore, the threat must be real.
The physical symptoms validate the irrational thought.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The logic becomes, I feel scared, therefore I must be in danger.
Wow.
And once that validation happens, the brain gets to work generating more thoughts to explain the intense fear. If I'm this scared, it must be even worse than I thought. What if they sue me too? And the loop just spins faster and faster. Trigger, thought, rumination, anxiety, validation, more thoughts.
There's a case study in the book about a guy named James that illustrates this perfectly. And I don't want to just recount the story. I really want to look at the transition points in his journey. So James finds a lump on his shoulder.
Right, and that lump is the trigger. Phase 1, pure neutral data.
Now, in a non-anxious brain, the thought process might be lump, doctor, appointment, 3 steps, done. But James, he goes down the Google spiral.
The Google spiral is modern rumination on steroids. It's like throwing gasoline on the fire. It provides unlimited fuel for the catastrophe.
He starts searching for symptoms, and of course he immediately finds the worst case scenario, which is cancer. But then, and this is the crucial part that I wanted to drill into, he doesn't stop there. He attaches it to his identity.
Yes, this is the key pivot.
He doesn't just think, I might be sick. He starts thinking, why does this always happen to me? I just can't catch a break. My life is cursed.
That is the shift from what we could call situational anxiety into full-blown existential dread. He's reviewing his entire life's inventory of past trauma, his failures, his bad luck.
So by the time he actually gets around to seeing a doctor, he isn't just afraid of a cyst on his shoulder. He is in a deep depressive state about the entire narrative of his life.
And the punchline, of course.
Spoiler alert, it was a harmless cyst. But the cost was weeks of genuine mental agony, lost productivity, sleepless nights. So the question is, how do we interrupt that loop? Because once you're in phase 4, once the cortisol is pumping through your veins, you can't just think positive thoughts. Your biology is hijacked.
You absolutely cannot fight a biological response with a logical argument. It's like trying to reason with a tidal wave. You have to fight biology with biology.
And this brings us to the first major tool in the toolkit.
The 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique.
I've heard of this, but I've always been a little skeptical, I have to admit. It feels a bit like someone just telling you to count to 10 when you're angry. But Trenton argues there's a specific neurological mechanism at play here. It's not just a distraction.
It's not distraction, it's resource allocation. Think of your conscious attention like a spotlight, or what Trenton calls the ball of awareness. When you are spiraling, that ball is trapped inside your skull, just bouncing around off memories of the past and fears of the future. It is entirely internal.
But the brain has limited bandwidth, right? It can only focus on so much at once.
Exactly. The brain cannot fully process a complex internal narrative and complex external sensory data at the same time. It's a zero-sum game. The 5-4-3-2-1 method forces that ball of awareness to leave the internal chaos and latch on to the external world.
So you are mechanically forcing a gear shift in your brain, from worrying to noticing.
You are grounding yourself in the now. because anxiety is almost always a form of time travel. You're either regretting the past or you're fearing the future.
That's so true.
But your senses, your sight, your touch, your taste, they only exist in the present moment. You cannot touch a table that's in tomorrow. You can't smell a flower from yesterday.
Okay, let's walk through this. And I want to get granular because I think people hear about this and they do it wrong. They rush it. They go, okay, see a lamp, I feel a chair, I hear a car, done. Okay, back to panicking.
That doesn't work. That's just checking a box. You have to force the brain to actually process the detail. That is what engages the prefrontal cortex and tells the amygdala, the fear center, to stand down.
So let's start with 5. Sight.
You need to name 5 things you see, but you can't just list them. You have to describe them. Don't just see the wall. See the texture of the paint. Is it eggshell? Is it matte? Is there a tiny smudge over by the corner? Look at the way the light is reflecting off your coffee mug. Trace the wood grain on your desk. You have to consume the visual data.
Okay, so I'm looking at the microphone arm right here in front of me. I see that the black paint it's chipped a little bit on the joint. I see the big silver spring that holds the tension. I see the dust that's collected on the pop filter. Is that the level of detail we're talking about?
Yes, that's perfect. Because in that moment, your brain has to switch from simulation mode, which is worrying, to observation mode. Okay, then you move to 4.
Touch. 4 physical sensations. And again, I'm guessing it's not just I feel the chair.
Right. Feel the actual pressure of your body on the cushion. Is it hard? Is it soft? Feel the fabric of your socks against your ankles. Is it tight? Loose? Feel the temperature of the air from the vent on your exposed skin. Feel the vibration of the floor if a truck drives by outside. You have to connect to your body.
Then 3, sound.
Isolate 3 specific sounds. So right now I can hear the hum of the computer fan. I can hear the distant sound of traffic. And I can actually hear the sound of my own breath. This can be hard in a quiet room, which is actually good because it forces you to listen harder, which requires more focus.
Then 2, smell.
This one can be tricky. Maybe it's coffee, old paper, your own laundry detergent. Even if you can't smell anything distinct, just notice the smell of the room itself.
And finally, all hell.
Taste. The lingering taste of lunch or toothpaste or just the natural chemistry of your own mouth.
Okay, so let's say I do all of that. I get all the way down to 1. Does the anxiety just vanish? Because my skeptical brain says the original problem is still waiting for me right where I left it.
The problem hasn't vanished. No. But your state has changed. You have turned off the time machine. You've brought your biological baseline down from panic to calm. You've proven to your amygdala that there is no tiger in the room, because if there were a tiger, you wouldn't be calmly staring at the wood grain on your desk.
So it's a reset button.
It's a circuit breaker. It breaks the panic loop, which gives you the mental clarity to actually solve the problem instead of just spinning in it.
It buys you a clean slate to act, which transitions perfectly to the next big hurdle, because sometimes we aren't spiraling in a full-blown panic. Sometimes we're just stuck. We know exactly what we need to do, but we just can't make ourselves do it.
Yes. Analysis paralysis.
All right. Or what the book calls the hesitation gap. I see the email I need to reply to. I know I should open it, but I stare at it. Or I know I need to get up and go to the gym, but I just lie there scrolling on my phone. What is happening in that moment of hesitation?
That moment is a battle. It's a battle between your prefrontal cortex, which is the smart, logical part of your brain that knows what you should do, and your basal ganglia, which governs your habits and your autopilot patterns. And more importantly, it's about what scientists call activation energy.
Like in chemistry, the amount of energy you need to get a reaction started?
Exactly like in chemistry. The brain is, at its core, an energy-conserving machine. It hates change. Change is risky. Change burns precious calories. So when you have an impulse, a wise impulse, like I should speak up in this meeting, you have a tiny, tiny window before your safety brain steps in to kill the idea.
How long is that window?
According to the research behind this, it's about 5 seconds.
5 seconds, that's it.
That's it. That's the whole basis for the 5-second rule. If you don't physically move on that impulse within 5 seconds, your brain will rationalize it away. It will come up with a million reasons. It's not the right time. Someone else will say it. I'll sound stupid. I'll do it later.
So the technique is literally to count backward. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, jeer. But why backward? Why not just count up from 1 to 5?
That's a great question. If you count up 1, 2, 3, you can just keep going. 4, 5. And maybe I'll go on 10. It's open-ended. There's no end point. Counting backward has a definitive singularity. 1, it ends. It's like a rocket launch. NASA counts backward for a reason. It signals a point of no return, a launch.
And it also interrupts the internal monologue, doesn't it? You can't be simultaneously worrying about the outcome of speaking up while you are focusing on counting down from 5.
It acts as a cognitive distraction for the prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
It basically occupies the worrier part of your brain just long enough for the doer part of you to slip through the door and take action.
I really like the idea of applying this to more than just getting out of bed. I'm thinking about it in professional settings. You're in a negotiation, the other person makes a really low offer. You feel that impulse in your gut to say, that's not enough, but then the fear hits.
Oh yeah, what if they walk away? What if I seem too greedy? What if they get angry?
That's the critical moment. That's the 5-second window. So you just go, in your head, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you launch the sentence. I appreciate the offer, but I cannot accept that number. You say it before the fear can tackle you.
You're training a bias toward action. Because, and this is a central theme of the book, action cures fear.
Action creates data. Thinking creates doubt. I love that. You can't think your way out of a problem you thought your way into. You have to act your way out.
But there's one specific flavor of overthinking that is designed to stop action dead in its tracks. And that is perfectionism.
The arch nemesis of all progress.
Absolutely.
Section 4 in the book is all about cultivating the good enough mindset. And I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. Good enough sounds like mediocrity. It sounds like giving up. If I'm a heart surgeon, I don't want to hear that my surgery was good enough. I want it to be perfect.
Of course. And context matters. If you were landing a 747 or performing bypass surgery, yes, by all means, aim for perfection. But 99% of our life is not life or death. The problem is that we apply those heart surgeon standards to things like picking a font for a PowerPoint slide or choosing a restaurant for dinner.
The text calls this FOBO.
Fear of better options. It's a close cousin to FOMO, fear of missing out. It's the paralysis that comes from trying to maximize every single decision. It's why you spend 45 minutes scrolling through Netflix, terrified of watching a 7 out of 10 movie when there might be a 9 out of 10 movie you just haven't found yet.
And what happens in the end? You don't watch anything. You just get frustrated and go to sleep.
Exactly. You maximize the process of choosing, but you completely destroy the outcome, which was to relax and watch a movie. Trenton makes a great distinction here between maximizers and satisficers.
Okay, break that down for us.
A maximizer is someone who needs to examine every possible option to ensure they are picking the absolute best one. They tune every decision, no matter how small, into a massive research project.
And a satisficer.
A satisficer sets criteria. For the movie example, it would be, I want a comedy, it has to be under 2 hours, and it needs to have over 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. The very moment they find a movie that hits those marks, they hit play. They're done.
And the research shows that satisficers are actually happier.
Significantly happier. It's not even close. Maximizers are plagued by buyer's remorse. Even if they do manage to pick the best option, they're exhausted by the effort and they're still worried they might have missed something. The satisficers are just, enjoying the movie.
So how do we train ourselves to be satisficers? Because for a lot of us, it feels dangerous. It feels like we're lowering the bar.
You're not lowering the bar. You're putting a time limit on the bar. Trenton suggests using the 30-second rule for any low-stakes decision. The rule is, if the decision won't matter in a week, you have 30 seconds to make it.
What to wear? 30 seconds. What to order for lunch? 30 seconds.
Exactly. And if you don't decide in that time,
What happens?
you have to pick the thing that is currently in front of you. Or the default option. No more deliberation.
That sounds absolutely terrifying for perfectionists.
It is, but it's a form of exposure therapy. You are deliberately exposing yourself to the possibility of making a suboptimal choice. Maybe you order the salad and it's a little wilted. So what? You survived. You learn that the world didn't end. You build up your tolerance for imperfection.
It all comes back to that mantra, done is better than perfect.
And you cannot steer a parked car. You need movement. You need momentum. If you start moving and it's in the wrong direction, you can always correct your course. But if you stay parked in the garage of perfect, you go absolutely nowhere.
I want to shift gears a little to the heavy lifting. We've talked about these momentary fixes, grounding yourself, counting backward, making rapid decisions. But what about the deep, gnawing worry? The worry that wakes you up at 3 in the morning?
The big stuff.
Yeah, the worry about your marriage or your finances or the future of the economy. You can't just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 away a recession.
No, you can't. That kind of worry requires cognitive restructuring. This is where we get into the realm of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and a really fascinating technique called worry postponement.
Worry postponement sounds a lot like procrastination, which we're usually told is a bad thing.
In this specific case, procrastination is a strategic weapon. The problem with a big worry is that it wants to be the CEO of your brain. It demands your full attention right now. And if you try to suppress it, if you tell yourself, don't think about the recession, you just trigger the pink elephant effect.
You end up thinking about it even more.
So instead of fighting it, you validate it, but you schedule it. Let's say it's 10 in the morning and you're trying to work, but your mind is obsessing over a conflict you had with your spouse.
Okay.
You literally say to yourself, okay, brain, I hear you. This is important. We are going to worry about this tonight at 7 p.m. for 20 minutes.
You make an appointment with your own anxiety.
Yes. You can even put it in your calendar, 7:00 p.m. to 7:20 p.m., worry about marriage, and then you give yourself permission to go back to work.
And what happens when 7:00 p.m. rolls around?
Two things usually happen. One, you've completely forgotten about it because the urgency was false. It was just brain noise. Or two, you do remember and you sit down to worry, but the emotional charge is gone. You can look at the problem logically.
You move from rumination to problem solving.
Exactly. You say, okay, we had a fight. We need to talk. I'll schedule a time for us to have dinner and connect. You've quarantined the virus so it doesn't infect your entire day.
Let's go deeper into the CBT stuff because there's another really specific tool Trenton mentions called the counter-belief experiment. I want to try and walk through this one.
Let's do it.
Okay, I'll be the guinea pig. Let's say I have a deep fear about this deep dive right now. My anxious belief is I'm going to run out of things to say and everyone listening will realize I'm a fraud. That's the loop playing in my head.
Okay, classic imposter syndrome. So that is your hypothesis A, I am a fraud and I will fail. In the counter-belief experiment, we don't just try to think positive thoughts. We act like a scientist. We need a hypothesis B. What is the exact polar opposite of that belief?
The opposite. I guess it would be I am well prepared, I'm a good communicator, and the audience actually values my perspective.
Perfect. Now, for the experiment itself, for the next 60 seconds, literally just 1 minute, you have to live as if hypothesis B is the absolute 100% truth. You have to embody the person who knows they are valuable and prepared.
Okay, so I'm sitting up a little straighter, I'm breathing more deeply, I'm not frantically scanning my notes because I trust that I actually know this material.
Right, you're trying on the coat of that belief. Now, while you are in that state, your only job is to find evidence from your life that supports hypothesis B. Your brain is a search engine. Usually you were typing in the search query, why do I suck? And it's giving you a million results. For this minute, you have to change the search query to, why am I good at this?
Okay. Evidence. Well, we've done over 50 of these deep dives. People keep listening. The numbers are growing. I read the book twice. I have a detailed outline right here in front of me. I'm actually having a really good, engaging conversation right now.
Do you see what just happened? You shifted your filter. You gathered data that was always there, but you were actively ignoring it because your brain was so fixated on proving hypothesis A.
It feels a bit like gaslighting yourself, but in a good way.
It's not gaslighting if it's true. That's the whole point. More often than not, hypothesis A, I am a fraud, is the actual lie. Hypothesis B is usually much closer to the truth. You're just forcing your brain to look at the reality it's conveniently ignoring. You're checking the facts. You ask those three powerful questions. Is this thought true? Is this thought helpful? Is this thought in my control?
That is it helpful question is the killer, isn't it? The thought I'm a fraud. Is that helpful? No. It actually makes me worse at my job.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It serves no useful function. So you discard it not because it feels bad, but because it is inefficient.
I love that framing. Efficiency over emotion. Now, we can't talk about the mind without talking about the environment, because sometimes we overthink because our life is actually chaotic. We're just overstimulated.
This is section 6, stress management. And Trenton introduces this really practical framework he calls the 4 A's. It's a system for dealing with pretty much any stressor that comes your way.
Okay, let's workshop this because lists can be boring, but applying them is useful. Let's take a specific and often painful scenario, the toxic family gathering.
Oh, perfect. High stress, high expectations, high trigger potential. The trifecta.
So you have a big family dinner coming up. You know your uncle is going to bring up politics. You know your mom is going to criticize your job choice. You are dreading it for a week straight. You're overthinking every possible conversation. How do we apply the 4 A's here?
Okay, so step 1 is avoid. Is it absolutely necessary for you to go?
Well, let's say it's Thanksgiving. So the social contract says yes, but maybe I don't have to stay for 6 hours.
Exactly. You avoid the trap parts of the event. Maybe you arrive late after the initial awkwardness. Maybe you leave early before the arguments start. Maybe you physically avoid sitting next to the uncle. If you can simply remove the stressor, do it. Don't be a martyr.
Okay, but let's say you have to be there for the whole thing. What's next?
Step 2, alter. If you can't avoid it, Change the conditions.
So if the uncle starts talking about politics, I alter the conversation.
Right. You say, hey, Uncle John, I'd really rather not talk about the election tonight, but tell me about that new dog you got. You set a boundary. You change the dynamic. You are not a passive victim of the conversation. You are an active participant who can steer it.
Okay, but what if he's relentless? He ignores me and just keeps ranting. I can't avoid him. I can't alter his behavior.
Then you move to step 3, adapt. This one is purely internal. You change your standards and expectations. Maybe your standard going in was, we need to have a loving, harmonious Norman Rockwell painting of a dinner. That standard is causing you pain because reality doesn't match it.
So I have to lower the bar.
You have to adjust the bar to reality. Your new goal for the dinner is not harmony. Your new goal is politeness. Your new goal is, I will eat the turkey and not scream. You adapt your expectations so that the gap between reality and what you want closes.
The stress lives in that gap. That's a huge insight.
And finally, if all else fails, accept.
The serenity prayer part.
It is what it is. You accept that your uncle is who he is. You accept that this dinner is going to be chaotic. You stop fighting reality. You shift from being a participant to being an observer. Wow, look at him go. He's really passionate about that. You dissociate slightly. You become the scientist observing the chaos rather than the person absorbing it.
Acceptance always feels like giving up, but in this context, it's actually a power move. It's about conserving your energy. You stop trying to push a boulder up a hill that will not move.
Exactly. You save your precious energy for the things you can actually control.
And this brings us to the final and maybe most important piece of the puzzle, which is identity. Because if you start to do these things, if you ground yourself, if you count backward, if you manage stress, you start to change. But you have to stop calling yourself an overthinker.
Labels are so sticky. If you tell yourself over and over, I am an anxious person, your brain will work tirelessly to find evidence to support that identity. It's confirmation bias in action.
So you have to start viewing these thoughts not as who you are, but as something you are experiencing.
It's the critical difference between saying, I am sad and I'm feeling sadness right now, or between, I am an overthinker and I'm a person who currently has a busy mind, but I'm learning the tools to manage it. It sounds like a small semantic shift, but language literally programs the brain.
And while we're reprogramming, we also need to talk about what we're feeding our brains. This idea of mental pollution. We are constantly feeding the beast.
You cannot complain about having a racing mind if you are shoving information, notifications, and outrage into it 16 hours a day. TikTok, the news cycle, emails, podcasts, present company excluded, hopefully. But we need silence. Our brains need downtime.
Trenton recommends a distraction detox.
Even if it's just for the first hour of the day. No phone, no news, no email. Let your brain boot up in output mode, thinking, creating, planning, before you immediately shove it into input mode, consuming, reacting, scrolling.
That shift output over input feels like the cure for so much of this. Overthinking is often just the brain's desperate attempt to process way too much input without ever having enough time for output.
Exactly. Which brings us right back to the core theme of the entire book, action.
So let's wrap this all up with a synthesis. We've covered a lot of ground here.
The toolkit is actually very clear and practical. 1. When the biology hijacks you, when you're in that phase 4 anxiety, you use the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding. You reset the system.
2, when you are frozen in that hesitation gap, you use the 5-second rule. 5-4-3-2-1 Joe. You launch yourself into action.
3, when you find yourself drowning in the quicksand of perfectionism, you practice satisficing. You use the 30-second rule. You accept that good enough is, in fact, good enough.
4, when a big worry is persistent and won't leave you alone, you use worry postponement. You schedule it, you contain it.
And finally, as an overall strategy for life stressors, you use the 4 A's. You try to avoid, alter, adapt, or accept.
And I think it's important to remember that peace of mind is not a destination you arrive at. It's not some island where nothing ever goes wrong.
No, peace is an internal permission slip. It's the ability to stand in the middle of the chaos, the uncle at the dinner table, the high-stakes meeting, the uncertain future, and say to yourself, I can handle this. I don't need to simulate every disaster. I will cross that bridge when I actually get to it.
I love that. I will cross that bridge when I get to it. Overthinking is trying to cross the bridge before you've even packed the car.
Exactly. You're trying to solve problems that don't exist yet.
So we're going to leave you with a challenge. We don't want you to just listen to this deep dive and nod along. We want you to prove the theory to yourself.
The challenge is this. You cannot think your way out of a problem you thought your way into. You must act.
So right now, identify the one thing you've been overthinking. The email you need to send, the phone call you need to make, the trip to the gym, the pile of laundry, whatever is sitting in your mental RAM taking up space. You have 5 seconds.
5, 4, 3, 2, 2, 1, go.
Get up and do it, and then come back and tell us how it felt. Thanks for listening to Good Read Self-Growth. We'll see you in the next deep dive.